So we packed ourselves up and moved to Massachusetts. Let's talk about that. So as I previously stated, we packed up and we left San Francisco for Northampton, Massachusetts. Now, the reality is I had grown up there. I was born and raised there. 55 years I spent there. And unfortunately, it became a city that if you're trying to raise a family, is not the best place to raise a family unless you're rich. I mean, you need a lot of amount of money to raise a family there, and it had become too difficult. And my wife grew up here, so we decided to pack up and leave. For me, it was a little difficult because I had literally, the longest I had ever spent anywhere was 2 weeks on a vacation in London in the 90s. Other than that, I had never lived anywhere else other than San Francisco. So this was a whole new experience to me. And even though I had traveled around the country and visited, I was always in tourist mode. So when we got here, it was early in April, and it was still April. Well, April isn't warm in San Francisco, but April is definitely not warm in comparison here. And it was still on the tail end of winter. All the trees were still dead. They hadn't come back. We actually did get a few days of snow, which was kind of cool because I had not been in snow for over 30 years. Actually, the last time it snowed in San Francisco was in 1976. And there were actually people trying to ski down the hills that had like only an inch of snow on them. But it was kind of interesting when we got here because after I had started to settle in, even though for the first month we were living in a hotel, doing stuff like going around and going grocery shopping and getting gas, which were things I didn't normally have to do, I thought it was really kind of interesting is people here are really friendly, and I was not expecting that. The people they liked the jobs they had that they were working at. As an example, in San Francisco, if you go into a deli and order a sandwich, a lot of times the people would tell you how much they hated working there and how much they hated their jobs. It was just kind of a shocking change for me how nice people were. As another example, if someone moved into San Francisco and they posted like on a San Francisco Facebook group, "Hey, I just moved to the city. I think it's great," and everyone would jump on them like, "Oh, you gentrifiers, go back to where you came from. People like you are destroying the city." Here, I said, okay, let's see what happens. So I posted on the Northampton board and I said, "Hi, I just moved here, grew up in San Francisco." I even added that I grew up in San Francisco to see if I could get anyone. It was kind of like a minor trolling thing that I was doing. But people are like, "Hey, welcome. Hope you like it here. I think it's a great place to live." And you know what? I've learned I like it here too. Things here generally, well, not generally, pretty much totally, are less expensive than in the Bay Area of California. I mean, gas here is ridiculous. I was paying $4 to $5 per gallon in San Francisco, and when we showed up here, it was $2.50 per gallon, and it's gone down since then. Also, the lack of traffic, and even though we do have mountains here, the general flatness means I get better miles per gallon here. I would typically spend $40 to $50 to fill up my gas tank in San Francisco twice a week. I rarely spend more than $25 to fill up my gas tank here, and I only need to do it once a week. And it's amazing how much money I'm saving on food, on gas, and stuff like that. Even things as simple as clothing generally is cheaper here. I mean, the only downside though is that shopping at places like, say, Amazon.com, whether you're West Coast or East Coast, you're still ending up paying the same price. So you don't get discounts from online shopping. But other than that, it is less expensive to live here. I'm not going to say cheap, because cheap makes it sound bad, but it is less expensive, and it's really nice. The other thing I had to get used to is the day after we showed up, we went to go look at houses, and one of the first houses we looked at ended up being the house that we ended up getting. And you have quite a bit more wildlife than we were used to in the Bay Area. We would get the occasional raccoon or skunk that you'd see walking around the backyard. The past few years, we started getting coyotes that would walk across the Golden Gate Bridge at night from Marin and come in, and decided they liked it in San Francisco as well. So they decided to come and gentrify San Francisco and give people a little bit of a wake-up call. But here, we typically, every morning when I go upstairs, we have squirrels and chipmunks that are coming up to our kitchen door and looking at us and asking for peanuts or whatever we would throw out to them. We have little rabbits that run around our yard. Now we have a family of foxes living in our neighbor's yard that come over to visit every once in a while. And there's a mom and 4 little kits, and they're really cute, except they kind of destroy some of my garden work, but that's all right. It's nothing that fancy yet. We have had deer come through the yard, and we also had a bear that's come through a couple of times. And as a matter of fact, I was out one day, and I was working right by the deck, and my wife sort of did this whispering yell, like, "Eric, turn around slowly." I'm like, "What? Why?" And I turned around, and about 15 feet away was a big old black bear, and he didn't really care. He was like checking me out, and I checked him out, and I walked back up on the deck, and he actually walked over. We had a bird feeder out at the time, which we have learned you shouldn't put bird feeders out. But the previous owners had the bird feeder. We figured, that's kind of cute. We liked having the birds that were showing up all the time. And he destroyed the bird feeder and carried it off. And he just, walked to the back of the yard, finished eating the black sunflower seeds that were in it, and then he got up and walked away. And it was about a half hour, and I yelled to my neighbors, because I know our neighbors on one side are in their yard a lot. And, he comes over and he goes, "Where's the bear?" And I'm like, "He's over there." And he's like, "Oh." And he just didn't seem too fazed by it. And he just said, "Yeah, well, that happens around here. Just don't get too close." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's correct. I won't get too close." And I've seen him twice. So we get lots of critters coming around here. As a matter of fact, today my wife told me about, so there's this big spider out in front, and I'm like thinking a big spider. Okay, maybe it's like that big, something like that. No, this thing was like almost 4 inches, and he's a golden orb weaver spider. Someone pointed out, and apparently it's very good to have them in your yard. They're not dangerous to humans, but he's big. Spiders like ants. We don't like ants, so he can eat all of the ants he wants here. And I will be very happy with that if he can keep the ant population down. one of the things that really surprised me here was the food choices. In many ways, it is a lot like San Francisco is and was also, because it has been changing. But the food is, as I mentioned before, it's less expensive. But in the restaurants around here, it was quite amazing the diverse collection of food that's available here. And I know one of the things people were razzing me about when they found out I was leaving was like, well, yeah, try and find a good burrito in Massachusetts. Well, guess what? I did. And they're actually really good. Chinese food is also very good. It is not as readily available as it is in San Francisco, but I do have to say, one of the weird things I noticed is in downtown Florence, within a block, there's 4 pizza places. In San Francisco, where I lived, within a block, there was 4 Chinese restaurants. So it's kind of reversed itself in that you have more options for pizza, like you have more options for Chinese food in San Francisco. And actually, yeah, pizza places where I lived were kind of difficult to find, actually. And the pizza out in the Sunset District, which is the area by the beach, isn't that great anyway, except for very few exceptions. There are a couple of them. But it was really an interesting transition. I love walking around in downtown Northampton and Florence. It's nice, all the stuff that's going on when I see the farmers markets. Of course, some of that because of the wonderful COVID-19 has been stopped right now, but I'm sure it will come back. It is slowly coming back anyway. The changes that they've done to downtown actually are really nice. I saw a lot of people were complaining about them, but traffic-wise, it actually makes it a little easier because what was 1 lane that people were using as 2 lanes, you can't do that anymore, which is good. So even, people talk about how the crime rate in Holyoke is awful, and it's an awful place. And okay, yeah, it's not the greatest place, but crime-wise, it's really not any worse than San Francisco was, because the crime rate was getting kind of out of hand there. And this is a great area. It did take me a little bit to get used to the winter, but now that when we have real seasons here, it seems like I get used to the winter quick, and then when I'm really tired of being cold, it starts to get warm, and then it gets really warm, and when I'm tired of being really warm, it cools down again. So you get a break left and right. I really like the 4 seasons here, and I think it's really a good thing. And it was, there are a lot of people when they leave the Bay Area, they try and stay in California. They try not to move too far. What we did was really pretty crazy, and we actually have some friends who also just moved here, and they're living in Longmeadow right now, and they're starting to adapt, and they're noticing there are a few little minor cultural things. I do get a kick out of learning how to pronounce the various city names, which I was practicing on before I came here. Like Amherst, not Amherst, and Leicester, not Leicester. Things like that, which are, I'm sure all of you here in Massachusetts just think that's funny because you're used to it. But what I want to be doing, I want to try and go out and see as many places as I can. I actually have a little Steadicam I can put my camera on and drive around and go to the various places that are starting to open up now. So what I want to know from those of you who read my blog and watch my videos, I want you to think about what you want to see me do. Those of you who are, because of the COVID-19, stuck at home, hopefully I can do a few things that will let you live a little vicariously through it, like going up to top of Mount Sugarloaf here. That was pretty fun. That was actually really cool. And when you're up on top of Mount Sugarloaf, I got to tell you, you cannot take a bad picture up there. It is just impossible. So I'm going to finish up here. I hope all of you have a great day, and I hope the COVID thing is not getting to you too much. And I will see you again.